Hey, you have Patrick Vindaro, co-founder at Visa Franchise Embedded Biz. Excited to have on Merle Griff, who's the CEO as well as the founder of SarahCare Senior Solutions. Merle, thanks so much for joining today.
Oh, well, thank you, Patrick. It's great to be here. Thank
So
you.
you're in an amazing industry. The macro trends, aging population are in your favor, but there's a lot of confusion exactly what is the senior care space and who are the different players. And you have cemented yourself in the adult daycare space, and there's also in-home care. So maybe you could just clarify for everyone listening, what are kind of the different options in terms of the senior care space?
Well, the emphasis right now is on allowing people and supporting people to stay in their homes. Obviously, the big players in that are home care and home health care and adult day health care. So, in home care, obviously, people are in their homes, and usually there's a nursing assistant or an aide or a companion that comes into the home to help them with, companionship, maybe taking them to the grocery store, giving them light meals, maybe doing some light housekeeping. We do SarahCare, we do home care, but what we like to do the best is adult day health care. And the reason for that is people leave their homes and they come to our centers. They come to us during the day. So they get to have friends. I mean, isolation is a really important factor right now for seniors. They come to us, they have friends, they have great food, they have great fun. We take them out, they're active. And meanwhile, they're being monitored by our nurses because we have RNs and LPNs. So our standard of healthcare is much, much higher. So instead of an aide or a companion, we have nurses that are monitoring someone's health. So we can take care of pretty complex cases that would be difficult to be cared for at home. So we like to say that we keep people in their homes and prevent unnecessary or early admission into nursing homes. So we love what we do. It's a great business.
I imagine for like a loved one, maybe adult child in their 40s and 50s, kind of weighing the different options, there'd be some comfort knowing that there's an RN on site rather than a companion that has no medical education and might be an amazing person. But if there were to be a medical event where time is of the essence, which generally is, you'd want to have an RN.
Right. Well, the nurses are also administering medications. They're watching their food intake. I mean, they're monitoring, all of their health. So it is a much, much higher standard of care. So for younger caregivers in their 40s and 50s who are working, they can either be working from home or working in the office and not have to worry about what's going on in their home, and know that when their family member comes home, they're usually pretty happy. They've been active, they've gone out. We have adapted golf programs, bowling, fishing. They go to movies, they go to concerts. They're out, they're active. They're not just sitting in front of a television all day. So they're pretty happy when they come home. We also have roll-in showers in all our centers. So we can do bathing. We have mini hair salons. They can get their hair done. They get a manicure. It's nice. It's a nice way to spend your day.
And tell me a little bit about these centers. Like, what's the ideal real estate? How many square feet?
Centers run about 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. We're usually looking at Class B office space, not Class A. We don't need to be there. And we have a design that we've developed over the years that allows people to be comfortable and feel like they're at home.
And what's a good number in terms of a franchisee should have in mind when they're opening up a SarahCare in terms of how many clients, how many customers to get to?
The average center runs 50 to 55 people a day. Now, what that usually means is you have approximately 100 people enrolled, because not everyone comes every day. But average attendance is about 50 to 55 people a day.
And how long do they stay on? Is it like a 3 to 5 year client life cycle, longer, shorter?
Well, our average length of stay is 2.8 years. All right. But we've had people who have been with us 8, 9, 10 years. They've been with us a long time. Yeah.
That's impressive. And with that, I mean, I imagine compared to like in-home care, you could just have so many frustrations like on the client side that it's like a different person, and maybe the people change and the staff change in the SarahCare center, but there's a community of other people that the other elderly people they've been interacting with. And as at least some of the staff that's been the same over that 3 year or so period.
Oh, yeah, we tend to keep staff. We have very little turnover because for our staff, they're not working weekends, they're not working evenings, they're not working holidays. And we close at 6 o'clock at night. So if you wanted to go to your kid's baseball game, you can go. So we're kind of a dream job for nurses and for nursing assistants. Plus, they get along really well with the participants, and our seniors love them and the families love them. So it's a really rewarding job. So we tend to have very little turnover in our centers.
Are you able to recruit nurses and other medical staff like directly from hospitals where they get burnt out of those 12-hour shifts and kind of crazy schedules?
They do. It's interesting to me that the nurses tell us, this is why I went into nursing. I really wanted to have an impact on people. I wanted to feel like I was making a difference in someone's life, and I just couldn't do that in the hospital or in the nursing home. In SarahCare, in adult day health, I'm making a difference. I know I have tremendous impact. So this is why I went into nursing, and they're much happier when they're with us.
You mentioned the site, 6,000 square feet. How many staff on a daily basis as well as just on payroll? Or I guess the staff you have, just because it's regular hours, they're there pretty much every day?
They're pretty much every day. So we run a total staff of approximately 15 people. Yeah, 15 to 17 people.
Okay. And that's attractive compared to some in-home franchises where to make serious money, you got to be at like 100 caregivers, 100 staff, 150. And it's a very different operation managing 100, 150 people rather than 15.
Right. And because our staff is in our center, we can monitor what's going on a very, very, we're right there. So we can monitor what's going on with staff.
One concern we get, especially from our foreign clients that are interested in the senior care, both the financials of the unit level, as well as some of the macro trends, is just on the liability side. They see it, they get the opportunity, they're interested in it, but they're worried about getting sued by a senior. What are some preventative measures to keep your house in order and to eliminate any lawsuits and other areas?
The biggest issue with us is that people are not staying overnight. So that lowers your risk and your liability completely. The other issue is we're not one-on-one. It's not one person in your home. So now it becomes he said, she said. They're in a set, all right? And there's multiple people there watching what's going on. The biggest issue is communication. So families trust us and they know that when something happens, we're going to call them immediately and let them know immediately what's going on and what happened.
Transparency.
Right, absolutely.
And why franchise? I imagine you could have just kept growing with corporate locations. Why did you decide to franchise?
Well, I will tell you a very quick, interesting personal story. I wanted to franchise and my husband said to me, please don't do that. Just open up more corporate centers, all right? But my concern was that people were going to start moving into adult day healthcare, not having healthcare background. That's what happened in home care. That's what happened in assisted living. And there are some assisted livings and some home cares that are wonderful, but there are many that are not so wonderful. And it's because people don't come from that healthcare background. With us, my dream was to take people in who don't necessarily have a healthcare background, but teach them how to do it at the gold standard. So they would do it really, really well. And that's what's happened. So many of our franchisees have no healthcare background at all. They've hired people to run their centers, but they all operate at the gold standard, and they're all very proud of the work that they do. And there's not been any lawsuits. I shouldn't say that. Quick knock on wood is to say.
Exactly. So that's impressive. 30 plus years, no major issues. That's huge.
Right, yeah.
And I've spoken to at least one former franchisee that's made a really nice return on capital in terms of, ideally if someone's in the franchise until the full length of the franchise agreement or maybe 20 years, but people move, plans change. And from what I understand, the resale value is pretty high for senior care once it's fully staffed and you hit the right patient numbers. Would you say more clients or patients, I should say?
We actually say more participants, but you could say clients. It's fine. It's fine. I'll tell you something interesting. We do have a franchisee in Pennsylvania, in the state of Pennsylvania. He sold his franchise. He did very, very well. He moved to Naples, Florida. He had a non-compete with the new company for 2 years. The 2 years was over, and he decided he missed us and he wanted to come back into the SarahCare family. So he repurchased his franchise center
Oh my
in
God.
Pennsylvania, and he's back. He's now back with us.
That's a big testimony, though.
Yeah, we're very excited to have him back. And I think he's going to come on to the Franchise Advisory Council this year. And it's great. It's great to have him returned.
What do you look for in franchisees?
We look for franchisees that understand that you can run a profitable business, but still do it at the gold standard, that we have to provide high level of care that meet the gold standard criteria, but you can still be profitable. And that they look at it not only in terms of a healthcare facility, but also as a business. It is a business. They need to pay attention to profitability and to the systems.
And most franchisees, especially those Americans that are joining, that are eligible for SBA loans, are they tending to lever up? Well, they'll invest like 100, 200K cash and then go out and get an SBA loan? Many
of them are going out to get an SBA loan. They do an addition of some retirement accounts, some cash that they have, and an SBA. It's usually a combination.
Okay. And how do you help the franchisees in terms of finding that ideal site, getting it open, and getting to break even fast?
So we have a real estate firm that we work with. They understand our specs. We have a consulting architect who's worked with us for a while. So the real estate firm helps them find the site. We're checking on it to make sure it meets the criteria for that particular state in terms of their licensing and zoning. And then we have a team that is assigned to them just to do nothing but get them opened, help them get a license, help them get their funding. And then we have packages for them. So we have a furniture package, we have an activities package, we have a medical supply package. Everything is ready for them and is already been negotiated for them.
And it's been what, over 30 years of supporting franchisees?
Yes, it has been. We've been doing this since 1985. So
that's huge. There's a lot of franchise brands that are growing way too fast for my comfort level, where they just started like 4 years ago and now they've sold 100 territories, only have 5 open. So you've been able to see through different crises and adapt together with your franchisees. And
actually, we know of some providers who have never done adult day health. All right. And they're now into franchising adult day health. It's a whole different business, and you really have to know your business. And the regulations are different in every state. We're used to crossing state lines. We know how to do that. We know how to do it well.
Which as a franchisee can be a competitive advantage, because as an independent startup, it is much harder if you don't know all that compliance. And I guess a new franchisee can lean heavily on the SarahCare corporate team.
Right. I mean, everything that they need, for example, for licensing, all their policies, all the procedures, administrative nursing, everything they need, we're doing for them. You know, we have a template, and then we're adapting it for the particular state that they're in. We also have close relationships in all of these states with the licensing and healthcare agencies, which counts. I mean, we've had franchisees who have walked into, a funding office, such as the Office on Aging or the Office of Health, and been told, no, we're not doing any more licenses right now, or the wait's going to be 8 months. And they're like, what's your name? And they'll say, well, we're part of SarahCare. And they're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. So if you're part of SarahCare, everything changes, right? Because they'll tell us they're sick and tired of someone walks in and says, I want to do home care or adult day health. And they'll say, why? And they'll say, I had my grandmother and I love my grandmother and she was such a wonderful person. And now I'm going to do this. And of course, you're going to give me lots of referrals, right? And they're like, you've never done this before.
Yeah.
her experience. That's not going to work.
And you're really an expert in the senior care space. I know you've written numerous books, including the upcoming book Solace in the Storm, focusing on caregiving during difficult times. Can you tell us a little bit about that book, maybe as a teaser? We'll include a link in the show notes for that book that's being published by Forbes.
Right. So the book really has to do with caregiving from infancy all the way through seniors. So it's throughout the life cycle. I've been a family caregiver myself. I took care of my mother in my home, and she also went to one of my SarahCare centers after she had a stroke. I had a special needs child. I took care of my husband for many years who had a chronic illness. And so what I found was a lot of the information that was available either took too long. I don't have time as a family caregiver, to meditate for an hour. All right. Or it was too expensive. Or it took me too long to read. It was just impossible. So this book is designed to confront those issues. So there are a lot of bullet points, a lot of boxes. You can get to it quickly. You can read it quickly. It's easy to do. You could do it in 5-10 minutes a day and get some help for yourself and some tips on how to do things. And it's not going to cost you $1,000 to do.
Well, I'm definitely going to read it. And I didn't realize it was that wide of a breadth in terms of different caregiving.
Well, people now are taking care of their senior partner as well as perhaps a grandchild.
Yes.
So they're taking care of multiple generations. And so I wanted the book to really span the life cycle. So it's not meant to be read from chapter 1 to chapter 18. If you're dealing with adolescents, you can go right to the adolescent chapter. If you're dealing with seniors, you can go right to the senior chapters. So you can get to whatever you need very, very quickly.
And the reality is that you'll deal with every chapter depending on what stage of your life.
Right. Correct.
And tell me a little bit about the policy work you've done in terms of senior care and/or franchising.
It's been very interesting. In terms of senior care, the primary policy issues have been under changing the laws in every state now so that they cannot close the adult day centers across the country. That was a big problem. When COVID hit, the governors in many states decided the adult day centers just had to close. So we have many centers that have never reopened because they couldn't take the financial hit of closing for 8 months. Fortunately, all the SarahCare centers have reopened. Everyone has survived.
It's impressive.
We're doing well. But we had to get legislation in each of the states that cannot happen again. There are guidelines for what happens when there's disease, but they can't close the centers completely. Families were in panic. They didn't know what to do. And it was really a problem. And we've gotten that passed in most states so that would not be a problem again.
Tell me a little bit about the intergenerational programs that you, as well as the franchisees, are rolling out in communities across the U.S.
So we've done a lot of research and actually a lot of publication. One of my books has to do with that, how to put together intergenerational programs. So intergenerational programs means there's a relationship built between what we often call the grandmas and the grandpas and a child. It's not that the kids show up at Halloween in their costumes and they kind of dance around the living room, singing a little song and showing off their costumes, which is great. I'm not saying that's not wonderful. It is, but that's not really an intergenerational program. Intergenerational program means you build a relationship. So our programs all go all the way from what we call rock-a-babies, which means that our seniors, as long as they're physically fit, can go into a daycare center and spend time one-on-one rocking babies.
Cool.
And singing to them. And the most interesting to me about that program is most of our volunteers for that program are men, not women, because they say in their generation, it wasn't so acceptable. And they were often working 2 jobs. They were working very hard and long hours and didn't really have that kind of time with their children. So our programs go all the way from infancy all the way through to college. And it includes special programs like one of the things we found in our research is the most popular grandma and grandpa with a toddler is someone with dementia. They actually do very, very well together. We train college students on that are specializing in gerontology and early childhood and vice versa. So we've had a lot of success in building relationships between grandmas and grandpas. In fact, I saw one of the kids recently who had left the daycare center and now was in school. And I said to her, "Hi, how you doing?" And she's like, "Great." I said, "How are you doing in your new school?" And she said, "Well, I like my school." And I said, "Well, what's the problem?" And she's like, "I miss the grandmas and the grandpas."
Aw.
I said, "No."
The kids develop such a different level of empathy. Like they're able to see that someone's not able to walk as fast or that they have to speak louder. And in the US, like thankfully my, children get to spend a lot of time with my parents, but in the US where people live in different cities and people are moving around, a lot of people don't have that intergenerational connection relationship.
And it means a lot. And we find even in some situations, parents will get involved because they also miss that kind of family connection. And there is a special relationship between a senior and a child. It's different, and it is a special relationship.
Yeah, no, I've seen it firsthand many times, and it's a beautiful thing for sure. Merle, we could speak all day on caregiving, all these topics, but I want to be very mindful of your time. We have a lot of listeners that are currently working at a business, or they have a business and they've hit kind of a limit. Maybe it's a side hustle. Any advice for a future entrepreneur, a future franchisee that could be helpful as they explore different business opportunities, franchise opportunities?
I think they need to look very carefully at what really is the requirement. The biggest issue for franchisees tends to be, do I need to be an owner operator? How close do I need to live to the business that I'm opening up? How often do I have to be there? How do I monitor it? And one of the things that's very important to us as we put into place is define monitoring systems for our franchisees. So if they're not going to be at the center because they're working in other positions and they're hiring, for instance, a director of that center, how do they monitor it? How do they really know what's going on within their own center? And so we've put together and developed some very defined systems for them to be able to do that, which I think is very, very helpful.
Are most of your franchisees over the first 18, 24 months, fully hands-on and that's their career? Or is it a mix of people?
It's really a mix. I mean, we have some people who will always continue to work in other positions with their centers. And then we have other people who are slowly moving into a position where they'll be at the centers more frequently. I mean, we've had some really interesting situations where I walked into one of the centers and the owner, who was not supposed to be an owner operator, was there. And he was an engineer in a very high powered position.
Huh.
He was actually serving lunch. And I said to him, "Doug, what are you doing? Why are you here serving lunch?" And he said, "I come here once a week to do this." And I said, "Really?" And he's like, "I just love this." He said, "It's the highlight of my week. It's the best thing I do. I just love it." So I said, "You leave your high power international corporation to come here and serve lunch?" He's like, "I love it. And they love me. And it's great." So you get these combinations.
That's amazing. It's great that your model is adaptable, because I would say most franchises, you really have to be fully owner operated. Many promote themselves as absentee or semi-absentee, but then you start asking franchisees and they say a different story. So congrats to be able to have that model that allows for a flexibility.
I mean, the other option, of course, is we can enter into a management agreement with
That's right.
franchisees. So we will get the center open for them and we will manage daily operations for them if they want. It's just an option that they can take or not take.
Merle, what's the best way for those that are interested in exploring SarahCare to get in contact to learn more information about your opportunity?
Besides contacting you, Patrick?
Yeah, or You direct that on your website.
Right. So our website is www.SarahCare, SarahCare.com. There is a portal there if you're interested in franchising to fill out the questionnaire. Send that to us, or there is a 1-800 number that you can call to get more information.
Perfect. We'll include that in the show notes.
Yes.
Merle, thanks for joining. I look forward to reading your book, and just want to thank you for all your support for our clients at Visa Franchise, and look forward to continuing following your success.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Patrick. I always appreciate being able to talk about SarahCare. So thank you.